Welcome to Forum 360. I'm Mark Welfley, and thank you for joining us for our Global Outlook with a Local View. Plastics. The very word evokes in us feelings of love and discomfort. Undoubtedly, plastics make our life easier, but at times we feel embarrassed throwing away single-use bottles and packaging. We hope that they will wind up in the recycling centers instead of landfills, but we never know. My guest today, Kevin Dressler from Alterra in Akron, has only feelings of love for plastics. A great love for plastics of all kinds and lots of them. Alterra's mission is to keep the same plastics circulating in our economy and out of the landfills and oceans. And with millions of dollars of investment, they have proven a concept. The company takes discarded and hard to recycle plastics and converts them back into raw material, which can be sold back to plastic manufacturers to make new plastic products. Kevin Dressler is the Director of Business Development and Licensing at Alterra and a Northeast Ohio native. And today we'll talk about Alterra's advanced recycling technology, the future of plastics, and what we can do to be part of the renewable movement. So welcome, Kevin.
Awesome, Mark. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So tell us about Alterra.
Yeah, so Alterra is an advanced recycling company. We're based here and headquartered in Akron, Ohio. So we've developed a proprietary thermal liquefaction technology that converts litter or end-of-life plastics back into petrochemical feedstocks to be created into new plastics. And so we've created value to this waste, and we firmly believe in order to solve plastic pollution that plastic belongs in the economy and not in the environment.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the process? How does it work?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we take chopped, dried, and densified mixed waste plastic, and it goes through our process. We melt it down, and then once it gets melted, imagine like a molten toothpaste. It gets melted down, and then it gets heated up again in the absence of oxygen, and that is where the molecular structures break back down. And so we are taking the plastic back to its original state, and then once you get it to its original state, you can then take it to the petrochemical company as a feedstock to be made into new plastics.
Okay, so all plastics, some plastics, which plastics?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So even, I joined Alterra 2 years ago, and we'll get to a little about me later on, but even when I started, I didn't quite know. I didn't know if you flipped over the bottom of a plastic milk jug or a yogurt container or what have you, that there's a number on it. And so it's generally plastics 1 through 7. So you're talking PET, HDPE, LDPE, PVC, polypropylene, polystyrene, and other. And so Alterra focuses on polyethylenes and polypropylenes, and then some polystyrenes and some of the other. What we do stay away from is PVC with its high chlorine content, and from PET. PET has a great mechanical recycling capability, and that's generally like your water bottle, the actual bottle itself, but the cap and the label are the things that we can take. And so as Alterra, we see our advanced recycling technology as a complement to mechanical recycling. Mechanical recycling takes cleaner feedstocks, and so what can be mechanically recycled is great, and it's the things that cannot or are bound for the landfill or they're dirty, those is what comes to us to ensure that we keep it out of the environment.
Okay. When we were talking the other day, you had mentioned that you have a tabletop experiment, and that tabletop experiment may go great, but scaling that experiment up to maximum to size and efficiency, like how is that done?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Alterra has been around for 15 years, and almost 15 years, 2009, and so it was the original lab bench scale was fit on this tabletop, and it was a box with some old lab equipment, and so The founder was from here, and then a few others that joined, they were from the Akron area. And it takes some time, as any new innovative technology does. And for about 6 years, it was tabletop to warehouse size. And then they were ready to go construct the facility, which we have in Akron on East Waterloo Road. And there was a critical point, even within that 6 years, where they were going to go build a commercial scale one, that they said, okay, it works in a batch, but we need to make it continuous, and I need to find a piece of equipment that can be scalable and continuous. And so even in between that, they changed the design before construction a few years to ensure that something was scalable and viable, because if it's not scalable and it's not economically feasible, then we're not solving plastic pollution. And so what we have at Akron is that scalable version. And then you would say, Mark, you'd say, oh man, 6 years, millions of dollars, I'm sure it worked out just right. Well, not so fast, right? And so the commercial operation standpoint, where you needed to get reliable, right? Make sure it works continuously and reliably, because that drives low CapEx and low OpEx. They needed to, in Alterra, we needed to add a couple more pieces of equipment and unlock the pinch points, because what happens on the tabletop, when you scale it up and it happens on these, you run into issues that you didn't think you were going to run into. So it took another few years, and then after that, we've been operating for 5 years, and the last 3 years from a fully continuous basis. So I mean, lots of blood, sweat, and tears, capital, and it didn't happen overnight. But very proud what this team has done, here in Northeast Ohio, on the forefront of innovation with advanced recycling and plastics recycling, and we feel great where we're at today.
So how did this whole idea get its genesis in Akron?
Yeah, it's great. So the original founder they were living in Akron. And they got the kit. They had this idea to stop plastic from going to the landfill, and how can they execute that? And the few founding members were from this area. But then you really look at it, and the talent that's in this area, what was the rubber capital of the world, right? Which turns into kind of the polymer science capital pseudo in the world with the University of Akron. It makes a ton of sense that plastics recycling, advanced recycling is happening here in Northeast Ohio.
So is there a synergy with the rubber capital of the world, and now the plastics capital too?
Polymer science. Yep, polymer science. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of synergies there, because it drives the talent from the local market. And so at Alterra, even our president Jeremy, he went to Walsh Jesuit. So he's local as well. And so the team just got done interviewing someone who's a University of Akron grad. They have a year of experience in the chemicals industry, and hoping to extend a job offer to that person this week, actually. Maria Belichak, she's from Ohio State, and she's from the Cleveland area. So she just finished her first full year at Alterra as a chemical process engineer. So we've got all of this from Ohio State to the University of Akron to this really just big focus, even from the operators and the maintenance team, just a strong set of talent in Northeast Ohio. And it's very exciting that we can continue to leverage those things and be innovative from that perspective, and kind of revive Akron's probably a strong statement, but really bring something new and bolster something new within this area, from rubbers and now to plastics and plastic recycling. We're excited to partake in that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Going back to the founders of Alterra, who were they? Were they engineers? Were they business people? Were they a combination of all those?
Yeah,
how did that combination work together?
A combination of entrepreneurs, and whether they were science-minded or finance-minded. It really does take some special people to really kickstart this thing, because there's you don't operate in a box, let's say that, right? So if you're familiar with a larger corporation or et cetera, there's pretty defined rules and standards, and your roles and responsibilities fit here. But when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get something off the ground, there's many challenges you have to face, and you have to be flexible and adaptable, and really some of the main things I feel from the team at Alterra is the passion we all have for sustainability and cleaning it up. I myself became a new father a couple years ago and actually welcomed another son just 6 weeks ago. So if you see bags under my eyes, may not be getting a little bit of sleep. And that kind of hit for me was how are we going to leave this for the future generations, and how can we be a part of helping solve some problems? Even though we all love plastic, mismanaging the plastic is an issue, and so we want to make sure that that's out of our environment.
Yeah. So we hear the term renewable, we hear the term circular economy. Can you either differentiate between the two, or maybe they're the same, but just what does that mean? What does it mean to be renewable or circular?
Yeah, no, that's great. And so from our perspective, renewables is giving something new life, right? So this plastic, it's at its end of life. It doesn't have a place to go, whether it's single-use plastics or things that could have been recycled that just didn't get the opportunity to. We want to take that and give it new life and renew it into new plastics. And the circular economy is where, okay, so plastic is made, it's taken by the consumer uses it for its purpose, and then where does it go from there? We want to capture that plastic, not let it go to the environment, whether it's mechanical recycling first. If it doesn't fit that, it comes to Alterra, and then we flip it back around so it's made into new plastic. So you literally are trapping the plastic in a circular economy, in a loop, right? And that's where we want it to stay.
Okay, awesome. If you're just joining us, my guest today is Kevin Dressler. He is the Director of Development and Licensing for Alterra, which is an Akron-based company that works with plastics to take plastics back to raw materials and then sell the plastic raw materials back to manufacturers to reuse again. And we're talking about the renewable economy. So switching over to more of a personal question, tell me about yourself. Like, where did you come from? And how'd you get here? And
that's great. Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate you having me. And look, not to steal anything from LeBron, but just a kid from Copley, right? So went to Copley. Grew up in Copley. Grew up near my cousins, aunts, and uncles, and went through Copley High School. Ended up going to the Ohio State University. Got an electrical engineering degree. Right out of school, I wanted to go work for Marathon Petroleum, and so I worked at some of the refineries across the United States. Started in Canton, and actually it was there in Canton while I was working that I met my wife, Teresa, and so we've been married for coming up on 6 years. And as I mentioned previously, we've got a 2-year-old and a 6-week-old, and the 2-year-old's probably the one keeping us up as well as the infant. But and she's from Doylestown, so more of a Northeast Ohio still roots. And from there, took us to Illinois. There was a refinery out in Illinois that Marathon had, so Teresa and I moved out there. And then we went down to Louisiana, where it was one of the biggest refineries in the United States, in Garyville. And I loved my time at Marathon. Great opportunities, great learning, and developed skills there. And so at that time, in about, I think it was 2020, going into 2021, we were expecting our first son, and family doesn't mean a lot to us, and most everyone was back here. And so we kind of looked at each other, and I had a great career going on at Marathon, and it was a tough decision, but wanted to open it up and look back here. And so, we were talking earlier, is you set yourself up for success, but then also there's a luck component. And our president Jeremy and I joke all the time, because he had been getting from recruiters like, "Hey, check this resume out. Hey, check this resume out," and then I remember him telling me he got so fed up that someone, a recruiter asked him, he said, "Okay, I only want someone with this experience, has done these things, X, Y, and Z, and is from the area," type of thing. And then my name came across his desk, and we hit it off, and very happy that we did, because it drove my entrepreneurial spirit, because I ended up going back while I was at Marathon, getting my MBA from the University of Akron as well. And it was the entrepreneurial aspect, and then obviously the sustainability aspect that kind of lined up with my previous experiences. And then as far as University of Akron goes in Ohio State, my grandparents went to Ohio State. My dad, my mom went to Akron. I went to Akron for my MBA. My Uncle Zip is what we call him, Uncle Zip, because he was the mascot for the Zippies back in the day. And there's too many Daves in the family, so we had too many Uncle Daves, so he was Uncle Zip at that point. So it's great to be back, to be home. We moved to Medina when we got back, and then we built a home in Wadsworth. So we're in Wadsworth now. So go Grizzlies, I guess. I don't know if my Copley folk will let me say that, but yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome, thanks. So let's get to some numbers. Like, how much plastic can or is Alterra capable of capturing, putting back into making feedstock or raw plastic, and then moving through the pipeline and selling to plastic manufacturers? Like, what's the capability? Put it in some simple terms.
Yeah, no, that's great. So our smallest capacity design that we're licensing out is 50 million pounds per year. So it's hard, it's a lot of plastic, right? It's hard to a little bit wrap that around. And so for perspective, with a quick Google search on how much a plastic bag weighs, like a Walmart grocery bag or something, it's about 6 to 8 grams. So you can get anywhere between 50 to 75 plastic bags in a pound. So however you want to slice the math, it's between 2.5 and 3.5 billion plastic bags for our smallest scale facility. And so when you think of it like that, it gives hope that we can do something about the plastic problem. And we can solve those things. And so when you look at the pipeline that Alterra has, in even half of those projects, it's about 1 billion pounds of plastic per year, when those come to fruition. And then that's 50 to 60 billion plastic bags per year. And that's just half of what we're really looking at across the globe.
It's a lot of groceries.
It's a lot of groceries. That's right.
Are you able to, you're licensing the technology,
Correct.
That's what I'm hearing you say. So you have like maybe small, medium, and large type prototype facilities or proven concept facilities that when organizations come to you, you're able to fit their needs?
Correct, yeah. So I'll kind of touch back a little bit. So we've got kind of some of the three core buckets is we develop the technology and we continuously develop it. We operate it in Akron, proof of concept of new ideas, proof of concept of the commercial scale, and we will bring customers in. I think last year we had 200 or so different people from these major or petrochemical and recycling organizations come into Akron, Ohio, and from there we then found that to really solve plastic pollution and to get to market quick, but also make the biggest impact was to license this technology to them. Okay. And so, of the projects that I was mentioning previously, those are on 4 different continents, right? So Asia, South America, we've got stuff going on in Europe, and then North America. And when it comes to scale, it really is based off of feedstock and availability of waste plastic in the catchment area. And so the designs we have are modular and repeatable. So if you want the smallest scale, you get the 50 million pounds. But if you want to scale up to 100 million pounds or 150 million pounds, that's no issue. We can modularize that with a common back-end system to really gain the synergies and economies of scale to ensure that lowest capex and the best financial viability for our customers to really ensure that these things are standalone.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, thanks for that. So, looking into the future, where do you see Alterra and where do you see plastics as an industry in the future, 10 years from now?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So 10 years from now, a very optimistic outlook on advanced recycling in general, and it's a very exciting market. So if you take some of our target customers, you take like the ExxonMobil, you take the BASF, the Braskem, the Dow, the SABIC, etc., the BASF, and if you add up their circularity targets, their plastics recycling targets, whether it's mechanical and chemical, we're talking in the magnitude of 20 billion pounds per year right? So I got back to Alterra, its line of sight of projects is 1 billion pounds a year for half of our projects already. Well, there's still 20x that to go, right? And so there's just immense growth. And so that's why we're excited and encouraged by the competition that is in this market to drive it, because all boats are going to rise together. I am competitive, so obviously, we want to do the best that we can, but we're in support of our competitors, because it takes all of us to really solve that plastic pollution, because there is so much waste and there's demand for it from the petrochemical companies.
Just for my own edification, like how do you ship this gummy toothpaste stuff, resin, this feedstock? Like, is it trucks, trains?
Yeah. So
how does that
go? So ours is a waxier at room temperature, but it can go via pipeline, it can go via barge, it can go via truck.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd have a heated jacket around that to ensure that it can be pumpable and flowable at that point in time.
Okay, thanks. Share with us a couple of things that consumers can do to either engage with Alterra or just help in this circular economy related to plastics.
Yeah, no, that's great. First and foremost, there's two things: is pick up litter if you see it, and don't litter. So those are the two things we all can do every single day. And then it comes down to kind of education of yourselves, and if you're the adult of the household, educating your kids about the plastics, the different types of plastics. And I think this is kind of, I'm happy that we're sitting down together, because getting the message out that plastics are getting recycled mechanically, and today in Akron through advanced recycling we're doing it, but soon commercially across the globe more and more will be done. You can feel good knowing that what you're doing is going to reap benefits. You can feel good that if you put it in the recycling container, it's not going to go to the landfill, because we are creating value for this. And when value is created for something, it gets picked up, it gets placed in the right location. And then the next thing, we're part of the American Chemistry Council, and you can go to AmericanChemistryCouncil.org, I believe ACC.org, and go look up some good educational information about the sustainable movement, plastics recycling, advanced recycling, and the circular economy.
Yeah. One of the statements you had mentioned off air was that there are so many different types of plastic, and you said it on air here too, that I think we as consumers are programmed to believe that if it's that single-use water bottle, right? The standard bearer for what needs to be recycled. Right. But there are so many other things. I mean, just styrofoam cups as an example.
Styrofoam cups, your milk jugs.
Become aware that those are all recyclable. But then, do you put that styrofoam in your recycling with all the other recycling, or do you take it somewhere where only styrofoam is received, or how do you connect the consumer to that?
So in the United States, there's a long way to go from a waste management perspective, and so there's some things going on in the Houston area and in the Chicago area where major corporations are trying to do curbside recycling and get a handle on those things. And so as that gets evolved, there will be specific bins for plastics in general. And so, we might not take the plastic water bottle because it's PET and it's good for mechanical recycling, but we'll take the label and the cap. We'll take the grocery bags. We'll take the Doritos bag, the Fritos bag, all of those things. I mean, it's amazing how much plastic we use in single-use plastic. I mean, the amount of fruit snacks that my son goes through, and you're opening the thing and there's 7 fruit snacks, and then you're throwing it in the bin, right? From the yogurt containers to, and even your laundry detergent, right? That's recyclable. Plastic bags. I mean, there's so many things that are recyclable now of what advanced recycling is adding on to what mechanical recycling can do. And that's the special part about it really is knowing that the hope that we're doing something about it. There's people out there trying to solve this problem.
Yeah. In the 30 seconds or so that we have left, I've always been told when you are ready to recycle, like I have a dog and the dog has a little plastic tray. There's food in there that we put that in. And there's that tray. Do I rinse it out before I throw it away? Do I separate the film lid from it? Do I, when it comes to bottled water, do I unscrew the cap and put it one place and what's optimal here?
Yeah. So one of the things about our technology that is great is we can take the dirtier feedstocks that most others can't. And so you don't need to wash it. That's what the beauty of it. So if it does make its way into, it's got food on it and it's got dirt on it and there's wood and paper and it's at the landfill and you're trying to divert it out, we can take it. Now, if you're like our president Jeremy, who collects, and a few of us who collect from our local household, you just rinse it out because you don't want it to smell in your plastic bag before you bring it into the facility, right? Because it might be like sitting in your car or something like that before you bring it into the facility. You can go to our website and I'm sure check out a couple pictures of Jeremy laying in front of the bunker of plastic with all of that. But yeah, so that's how I'll answer that is. Cool. Our technology doesn't need it. That's what makes it extremely robust. But for the sake of human sanity and their smells at home, you probably want to wash it out.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it, and for the interview. Industry experts project that by 2050, our world will use 3 times the amount of plastics it uses today. And indeed, it is not that we use plastics, but how responsible we are with them. That will make the difference in our environment. Alterra's mission is to be part of the solution to plastic pollution. I'd like to thank Kevin Dressler from Alterra for being here today and encourage each of you to keep your mind open until next time on Forum 360.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.